and welcome to Mortality with me. In this video, I'm going to be looking at death rate by leading causes of death by age group for 2021. Just looking at this table, and you'll see we've got our age group starting with infant mortality, that's less than 1 year old, going all the way to the right to over age 85. I have a different video which is going over essentially the same table, but I'm doing exact counts of death and finalized data from the CDC for 2021. And I'm using finalized data here as well. But here I'm giving death rates, the annualized death rate, and I'm putting it as percentage. Usually when we do death rates as an actuary, I do it in rate per 100,000, but I find a lot of people find that confusing. A lot of people find percentages confusing enough, but that said, percentages you see all the time, every day, so I'm going to use percentages. In some of these cases, you will see the death rate is so low, it says 0. Obviously, it's not 0, but it's just below the level of precision I'm showing on this table. So let's start with the total death rate for each age group at the top. And we're going to start with the infant mortality, which is 0.56%. And I'm going to jump from that one all the way to the right to age 45 to 54, which is 0.53%. Basically, to get at about the same 1 year mortality rate as infants, you have to get to middle age. When I do analyses of childhood mortality, I exclude infants for this reason because it's at a totally different level from the rest of children. If we look at 1 to 4 and 5 to 14, you see 0.03% and 0.01%. So the lowest mortality you're seeing is at like age 5 to 14, 0.01%. That's not 1%. That's not 0.1%, 0.01%. This is very, very low. This is, school days. There's almost nothing that's killing you. And this is, of course, the ages at which parents, mothers, most freak out. I'll get to that in a moment. Teenagers and young adulthood, now you start to see mortality rates really start marching up. We got 0.09, then 0.18, it doubled, 0.29, 0.53. Now we're back at the infant mortality level about. Now we're getting over 1%. 1.12% is for age 55 to 64. If you wanted to know about where 1% was, there you go, 55 to 64. Then 65 to 74, we got 2.15%. 75 to 84, 5.12%. So 5% is like 1 in 20. And then 85 and older is about 16%. That's pretty high. So just something to think about. When people were looking at Betty White, oh yeah, she's going to make it to 100. Or say Queen Elizabeth II, guys, mortality is very high at those ages. Yes, these are very rich people with a lot of care. However, once you're getting up to very, very old, you don't really have lots of choices at that point. It's a crapshoot. It's very difficult. Past age 85, the mortality rates are very high. So let's do this. I'm not going to talk about the ranking of the different causes of death. I did that more in the other video. I will provide a link to the other video in the video notes on this one. So let's just look at COVID. And if we look at COVID and notice, I will do it to 3 decimal points. I've got 0.003%. These are fairly low, and this is going to be true for any individual cause of death in general until you get to old ages. For children, COVID, and like for age 1 to 4, at that number of digits, it's at essentially 0. 5 to 14, it's at essentially 0. I could have pushed more digits out so that you could see what it was, but I just didn't care enough. 0.003% for 15 to 24, 0.013%, 25 to 34, etc. Where it's number one cause of death for age 45 to 54%, it's not even 0.1%, it's 0.091% for the mortality rate for COVID for that age group in 2021, which is the top full year for COVID mortality. Okay? And even though that's the number one cause of death for age 45 to 54, you will notice as you get older, age 55 to 64, the COVID mortality rate increases with increasing age. And that's what we expect with most natural causes of death. So 0.172%, 0.305%, 0.610%, 1.354%. So you can see it's increasing with increasing age. This is not that surprising. If I look at cancer, so 0.002%, 0.002%, 0.003%, even though the ranking is all over the place, notice cancer as a natural cause of death has an increasing rate of death with increasing age. If you remember, or if you look at the other video with the number of deaths, you will see the number of deaths can differ quite a bit too. But the rate is just increasing with increasing age. And it goes from 0.002% at the youngest ages all the way up to 1.713% at age 85 plus. If we look at heart disease, now heart disease is a little more complex because there's lots of different kinds of heart disease. You can have some congenital heart problems, you can have congestive heart failure, you can have ischemic heart disease, which, heart attack. There's lots of different ways the heart can fail, and that would count as heart disease. Stroke is separate. So this doesn't do the normal stuff for childhood. It's a little higher for youngest children, then it goes down, and then starting in teenagerhood, it starts to increase, just like cancer, and it increases more rapidly than cancer did, topping out at over 4% for age 85 plus. Now, for the non-natural causes of death, accidents, homicide, and suicide, you do not get a natural pattern, so it doesn't increase with increasing age per se. So I didn't talk about this in the other video. For younger people, so young adults say, a lot of the accidental causes of death are drug overdoses and motor vehicle accidents. I didn't talk about what the accidental causes of death for seniors tended to be. Yes, you get motor vehicle accident deaths, but you also get falls. And you get some other kinds of accidental deaths that are not as common for young adults or definitely for children. So there is kind of a frailty component to accidental deaths that you don't get to homicide and suicide. So homicide and suicide are a little more kind of level and don't change as much with age, which is kind of interesting. For adults, suicide just kind of goes across. I do want to point out some of the causes of death that I did not highlight with any particular colors. So let us look at diabetes. So here we go, diabetes, 0.001, 0.003, 0.007, 0.019, 0.043, 0.083, 0.160, and 0.310. So this has an increasing pattern like you get with natural causes of death. Some of these kind of appear a little more drastically like Alzheimer's disease. Does not appear on the ranking table until age 75. So there's kind of a threshold that has to be passed before you see it due to age. Stroke, so stroke, we don't see it. So it's like zero at, infant mortality really has its own shape that I kind of have to ignore. So it starts at 0 to this number of digits, okay, and then it starts growing 0.001, 0.005, 0.014, and then 0.034, 0.084, 0.275, and then 1.111. So you get this kind of pattern with a lot of natural causes of death. Again, some causes of death, pregnancy related, are special, and kind of the whole cause effect chain that goes on with those. And so you can think those through. But other ones you might want to think, liver disease, septicemia. That might be more like a very special kind of accidental cause of death. Now, this is the finalized statistics for 2021. Comparisons you may wish to make. You may want to look at 2020, which also had COVID. You can look at the COVID death rates these are the same age groups. You could also look at the total death rate and how those differ compared to 2020. So those are going to be a bit different. Notice COVID is number 2 for age 85 plus and actually has a higher death rate for age 85 plus for 2020. That actually came down in 2021. You may want to think about that. In heart disease, what happened with heart disease and cancer? If you remember, heart disease was over 4% for a cause of death and death rate for age 85 plus in 2021. But ultimately, you may wish to check it against 2019, the year before the pandemic started. And you may want to check 2020 against 2019 and 2021 against 2019. You can see what happened with heart disease in terms of levels. You can look at cancer, and I used all the same colors, but also accidents. Now, these are very broad categories. I'll be doing some future posts and videos where I'll break out accidents into those more detailed. Was it motor vehicle accidents? Was it drowning, falls, drug overdoses? And it does differ by age group what kind of accidental death makes sense for those. So I'm not doing those comparisons in this video. You can take a look for yourself. I will be doing smaller age groups instead of these specific age groups. These are pretty broad because I wanted to get them all in one table that you could look at once. But I'll be looking at some smaller age groups that we can see how did it change from, say, 2019 to 2021 over that period, because we have finalized statistics, and to the extent we can look into 2022, how did that change for those age groups as well? So look forward to talking about that then.